Still Ablett. Still Ablett. Ablett at the punt road end.
Hello, I'm Damien Barrett and welcome to Access All Areas. Plenty to talk about from the weekend's action, and with me as always is Matthew Lloyd and Jimmy Bartell. Guys, welcome. What's your big takeout from the round?
Damo Lloyd, for me, it's Cats and Collingwood after round 7 and the clear premiership favourites, and that's off the back of some pretty deep midfields.
I love what the Western Bulldogs did Saturday night. There was huge concerns for Richmond. Midfield depth, a real issue. Dusty not travelling as well as he would like, and also the West Coast Eagles struggles. Damo got the win, but not playing well at all.
Yeah, the Crows, in my eyes, just getting their season back on track against lowly opposition, it must be said, the past 3 wins, but they're back on the winners' cycle. Bad news, though, for the Blues. It was as bad as they've been under Brendan Bolton's watch, and it's almost at the point of no return for him now with what happened at Marvel Stadium yesterday against the Kangaroos.
Point of no return, Damo. Are you saying this is...
It's going to be very hard to get back now, Lord, for him to be coaching into 2020, having won only 4 of his past 39 games, and with performances like this coming in round 7 of this season.
Yeah, it was a bad loss, but I still feel like they're with him 100% Carlton the board. But as you said, Damo, losses like this can change things. They were pathetic, absolutely pathetic. And you see moments like this, Levi Casbolt kicking back towards goal and the intercepts, game over at quarter time.
Yeah, you can't do much about that as a coach. As we see Brendan Bolton shaking his head. I think they've built up enough goodwill in the first 6 rounds because they've been super competitive. The problem will be if this becomes a consistent pattern of play that we've seen in the previous couple of years.
Just to clarify that point, Lottie, I'm convinced he'll coach the remaining matches this season, but right now it's going to be very unlikely for him to go into 2020.
But what about Damo if they win 5 games? It's not a great year, but still they win 5. Do you think he coaches next year?
But we keep saying if, Lordy, don't we? They won 2 last year, they've won 1 this year, and they've dished up that in round 7.
I expect them to win 5, so if they win their 5, do you think Bolton coaches Carlton next year?
It changes the scenario from what we're looking at, but I can't see them winning 5, but the way they keep losing games. It was all set up in the first quarter, wasn't it? There was no desperation, and the stats that emerged from that first 30 minutes of football are damning on their better players. I mean, Paddy Cripps, who is clearly their best player, is on that list.
Yeah, I think it was a bit to do with the opposition as well. They've been under the absolute pump, North Melbourne. You know, a lot has been made around their side and I guess on the coach as well. But they were back to North Melbourne. I know they call it shinboner spirit, but it was contested footy and the key players got involved. Ben Brown was involved early, which got them, all up and about. And Zurha sort of finished off towards the end of the game.
And their Goldstein, Zeeble, Cunnington all had great games. So the top end of North played extremely well. Carlton's didn't.
Yep. Go to the MCG from the Sunday fixturing of this round, Essendon versus Geelong, and it was a close game at times, but ultimately Geelong shut Essendon down in ways that they don't like.
Yeah, it was just again, it's what Geelong do. They put pressure on the Bombers. The Bombers had 2 more inside 50s, but just did not look like scoring, Jim. So that was a real issue. Danaher kicked 4 last week, didn't look like it yesterday. Stringer was their only hope going forward.
Yeah, and pressure is the key word both of you guys mentioned there. They were able to keep as little numbers as they could, Geelong, around the contest. Now, Essendon early in that game were able to break through the front of the stoppage, but once Geelong were able to get that pressure on, they're so well structured behind the ball, so it would have been good to see Essendon at different stages play 5 or 6 forwards ahead of the ball because, as you mentioned, Louis, they got enough entries, but they were scrapped entries because of the pressure, but then they were outnumbered when it hit the ground.
OK, so with this, what happened against Geelong, when you say they should have had more forwards ahead of them, or is it something that John Westphal just doesn't do regularly enough?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It must have been a tactic to probably combat the Cats' midfield, that they wanted to pack them up, play it there, and then try and get the Cats on the burst out the front, which the first 10 minutes of the game, they did that and had great effect. But once Geelong got into the groove, Dalhouse, Atkins, these sort of guys actually started to apply a lot of pressure. They were able to force those rush kicks forward away from a stoppage.
Just brilliant, Geelong. No sign of weakness at all. You can have all these players sitting back behind the ball, but if you've got no pressure further afield, it means nothing. So they identified that in the off-season, and that's why they deserve their top billing at the moment.
Yep. Now, our AFL.com.au colleague Kane Corns has brought this to our attention, how Essendon manned up early in the game against Gary Ablett, who lined up inside the Geelong 50. We're just going to show you a few moments here. Ablett is standing there at the 50-metre arc, about to enter the square, and he's on Heppel at this occasion, Jimmy.
Yeah, so they're trying to, I guess, get Gary to chase the other way, but what really happens, a lot of sides are trying now with the new 6-6-6 structure is Heppel will come flying into the centre bounce and keep going and try and draw Gary away. But it's actually the winger on the right of the screen of these edits is essentially the defender to come on Gary. But the problem is if the ball gets turned over quickly or Geelong win the centre bounce, you've got to switch in defence really quickly because Gary's still playing the role as the forward. So McGrath's coming in, but you see the winger sort of come in as well from the right. but they get involved in the game. Gary's going to still play the role as a forward and back his, I guess, instincts and his football
Do you
knowledge.
reckon Essendon were trying to identify a weakness in Gary Ablett there, or would it have been any forward who started at the top of the 50?
Yeah, I think it would have been any forward. The fact that Gary started high, but I think they were trying to exploit also the Geelong midfield, trying to get forward. So the one starting in the centre bounce, if he takes off early, they're trying to catch out the Geelong midfield by getting forward of the ball with a bit of cover coming from the wing in behind the contest.
Okay. It was a tight match at the Adelaide Oval, Adelaide Crows versus Fremantle. Difficult to watch at times because of its slow scoring, but a couple of incidents, as you can see in the third quarter here, probably swayed this game. Now, that wasn't paid holding the ball on Eddie Betts, and then the play unfolds and a free is given to the Crows.
Yeah, Lockie Murphy gets the free kick there, so it wasn't their best moments. I hope the AFL come out today and say they got this one wrong. Everyone will say, yep, no worries. We can't get them all right because that should have been holding the ball. Eddie Betts had prior. He went to turn around, and then this is a 50-metre. It's Bradley Hill. You can't throw anything, so he threw sand, he threw grass. At Lockie Murphy, misses it, and that is the right decision, being a 50, but it shouldn't have been there in the first place in a tight game. We see Bradley Hill again. You see things in the air. And,
it's just a brain fade, isn't it? I mean, people might say that's a minor infringement, but you just can't do it. And Tex obviously got up in there.
Yeah, he did, but it's hard not to have a laugh, but I'm sure Ross won't be laughing.
The Demons got their second win of the year. They ground one out, didn't they, at the MCG against Hawthorn? And we haven't seen Simon Goodwin like this in his coaching career.
Yeah, I think Melbourne would have had a real sense the walls were closing in. Everyone was expecting them to be top four. They've had a difficult and slow start to the year. And as a player, it's great to see your coach so invested in it, and it felt like the whole of the club had clearly bunkered down as a group, and he coached a lot of the game from down on the boundary line, so he would have been riding the emotion because a lot of that final play was on the interchange side. So, look, as a player, you just absolutely pumped that your coach is really committed and feels like they're part of the group.
And they lost the lead, didn't they, Jimmy, late in that last quarter, and doesn't matter how you win. They just needed something to show that they're going in the right direction because he's had so many things to fix. They go to the Gold Coast this week too, Damo, so it's another one they can back up and suddenly try and build their confidence. But he's a young coach. He's had a lot go right for them. The natural progression and build has been good, and so he would have been rocked this last 5 or 6 weeks, questioning himself as a coach as well.
Are you like Jimmy and like the coach being seen to be so emotive?
It is what it is. That's how he felt on the day, so you don't want to try and compress that at all. Yeah.
A lot of issues at Hawthorn. We'll touch on them in a moment. Just something that happened at half-time with a discussion of key players, and Chad Wingard is clearly central to it. He didn't have a good game, and it appears, without us knowing exactly what was said here, that they were questioning some of his actions in that first half.
Oh, look, these conversations go on every week for every club, but the fact that it was out on the ground as well while they're waiting to come off at half-time. Now, Chad's new to that forward group, and three pretty experienced Hawthorn players there have probably explained to him where they want the ball kicked and what role they need for him to play on the forward line. But that's nothing unusual, I don't think, Lloydie.
It's fantastic. Nick Maxwell was the king of it, wasn't he? You know, getting his team together, sorting it out. So it's what all experienced players in there trying to sort out issues.
Never short of an opinion is Alistair Clarkson, the Hawks coach, including the team that he beat on the weekend. But this is a pretty brutal assessment of where his club is at.
Right at the minute, we're looking at our group and saying, listen, we're a middle of the road side. Neither side showed anything today to suggest that they're going to be any threat come the end of the year. So both sides have got some work to do. Perhaps I'm discrediting Melbourne a little bit by putting him in the same bracket as us, but I genuinely believe our ladder positions are pretty reflective of what we're seeing on the park at the minute. It sounds like it's going to be catastrophic change, and it's not going to be any of that. But we're not a side that sit around and wallow in the middle part of the ladder for too long.
Do you like that?
What I just think back is he does not let emotion or anyone's history get in the way of what he needs to do to make Hawthorn better. So he says we will not wallow in the middle. So to me that means possible game style change. I'd be worried if I was a senior player at the club, even if you're a good player who's got, like Ryan Burton. No one would have thought Burton would be playing for another club. To get a Canelio or possibly a Jeremy Cameron, whoever it is, he'll be ruthless. So I think nothing would surprise me with the changes he'll make at Hawthorn.
A couple of different interpretations of 50-metre penalties in this game. James Harmes was central to two of them, and one was clearly the right decision to pay against him. I think think he might have been a little bit unlucky on the other. But this is the first of the two, and you can't be doing that, Jimmy.
No, that one's been around for a while, James. He had such a magnificent game, especially on O'Meara. But this one, he's a little bit stiff because the actual mark comes towards him. You see McDonald sliding across, so he's pretty stiff here. Look, 250-metre penalties, but they have been around for a while. But this last one here, this is probably the talking point one. It's such a crucial part of the game.
So Scully gets the free putt against him for holding the ball, and rightly so, but then Brand kicks it away, and Melbourne is wondering why that's not 50, when it probably should have been.
With the umpire only about 5 metres away from Brand here in closing, so he actually, I think, probably got away with one here, Lloydie.
Yeah. On Saturday night at Marvel Stadium, Aaron Norton turned one on. This guy is a star already. He finished 4th in the best and fairest in his very first season of football last year. He's started this year well, had a few quiet weeks like his team, but gee, some of these marks, 9 contested out of 14 in total.
It's just so rare. I think it's why everyone's loving Harry Mackay at the moment, because there's not too many players in the competition. So you'll see players get 30 possessions every week, but you just don't see this very often in the modern game with numbers getting back behind the ball.
No, he was playing like he was in the schoolyard, wasn't he, when you were watching it? But I know Damien Harwood made the comment that no one could have stopped him the other night. I think he said, Jesus Christ, wouldn't have been able to stop him. Look, if you add Rance and Asprey, that certainly would have helped, but it was from up the ground. There were a lot of deep entries. 6 goals from stoppage for the Dogs. They had more than 100 more possessions and they dominated the clearances. That's what I think he was more referring to. It came from up the ground, as we spoke with other teams. It was just too easy for the Dogs.
He is fixing their problems up forward if he plays like that, obviously. And down back, Jackson Trengove, Lord, he finally got to go, and he shores that up.
I think you know what you get with Jackson Trengove, and he might be, a guy like Jeremy Cameron might trouble Trengove with his movement, lateral movement, but he was a perfect matchup for Tom Lynch, and it was a brilliant performance from the Dogs. Eagles got themselves to a 4-3 scoreline with a gritty win against the Suns. I reckon they'll go to 6-3, but Jack Darling was central to it. He's had a mixed year.
Yeah, he has. Look, he cops a lot of criticism, Jack, because sometimes his poor games are really poor and his good games are some of the best in the competition. So I think people look for that, I guess, that good to bad to narrow that gap there. But look, if it wasn't for his second quarter, to be honest, the Gold Coast were right in this. He had a purple patch in the second quarter. Here he rips one out of the ruck, and this next one where he kicks, where he just follows up and butters up, probably gave enough of a buffer for the Eagles to get the win. But you got to tip your hat too to the Gold Coast Suns. They are playing with some serious spirit. A lot of big names are out of that side, so they just kept coming at them. There
were some communication issues that Jack Darling had in that game too, where he ran away from the ball when it was coming his way here.
Yeah, this is one where we talk about, Jimmy summed him up beautifully. His good games and bad games, there's too much of a gap, and this is one where I think it was communication. He's expecting this to be lobbed to another West Coast player. He'll get the handball over the top, but he just didn't read that one too well. But yeah, I'd be concerned. Adam Simpson's frustrated. We saw even Shannon Hearn dump a player on the boundary line, frustrated. They're just not happy with how they're going at the moment. Jeremy
Cameron is putting it all together this year. 30 goals from the 7 games, but it's his work rate that will impress his coach and teammates the most. This is him here on centre wing, effectively squaring the ball up, and then watch how it unfolds. Yeah, well, the second one's an absolute cracking mark, but Lloydie, for me, that first mark is the change in his game. He's coming up at the kicker a lot more, and he's doing that from out of the goal square as well. That's why he's leading the Coleman by 13 goals. But it allows him to get back and do this one because he can work over his opponent better than most key forwards. And it's rare you get shots close to goal, and I think his goal kicking's improved because he's clunking them inside the 15-20 metre area, and he's an absolute star. You touched on Collingwood being a highlight of the weekend back on Friday night against Port Adelaide. Ollie Wines, normally good with ball use, but there's a sequence of events here with his hands which just goes straight to Collingwood players. Yeah, sometimes you just have a bad night, and he might have still had Ken Hinkley's words ringing in his ears after he sort of torched him at quarter time. Look, he can just have a bad moment. He's a quality player, and I don't think he will put too many of these games in a row together, but it just wasn't Ollie's night. No, not having his best year, Ollie. Travis Boak, a standout. Just wonder whether he's a little bit heavy. Ollie Wines, something he might have to look at over time with the way midfields are spreading extremely hard. And he interrupted pre-season with a shoulder injury. That's a fair point too. Mitch Robinson's a player we've got to love on Access All Areas. The temper, though, that is sometimes part of his makeup. It was on show. And I don't mind it, Jimmy. No, I love it, and I know the Brisbane Lions players love it because he's one of those players that they always say you love him as a teammate but hate to play against him because of this. He's just got a little bit upset. He's a bit stiff. He tried to get a free kick back the other way, but we love watching Mitch Robinson. He's a favourite. It is. Now, it's time for the Access Big Ask, and Taloidi, this one is to you only. Can Cox, Reid, Mychek fit into the one Magpie side, and if so, Or if no, who misses?
Could be worth trying against Carlton this week, but I'd leave out Myercheck and give Reid and Cox an opportunity together this week.
Jimmy, should we expect more from Chad at Wingard?
In time, and I think that will be in the coming weeks to add the midfield mix.
To both of you start, Jimmy. Can Gary Ablett actually win the Brownlow this year?
Yes, if he doesn't get suspended.
I don't think he will.
Really?
Yes.
He's had a good 4 weeks, hasn't he?
Yes.
A really good 4 weeks. To both of you, can Jeremy Cameron kick the ton, or are we just getting too excited about this right now?
We're a little bit too excited at the moment.
Possibly in the finals. I reckon he can kick
Like you did, Lloydie,
Yes,
a couple of times.
that's right.
Lloydie, whose signature is more important for the Giants, Canelio or Cameron?
You can replace a midfielder, but not a forward, so I'd say Cameron's.
Oh, listen to the key forward.
Do you agree with that?
No, midfield. They don't get a kick unless we give it to them.
Now, did Port Adelaide's take a hit, Jimmy, with their loss against Collingwood?
No, not yet. A young side who had a flat night against a good side, Collingwood.
And to both of you, should the AFL be doing more in penalising thugs at the footy? There was an ugly incident between a Hawthorn fan and a Melbourne one on the weekend.
Definitely something to look into, how we can penalise them more, no doubt.
Yep, the law should deal with them first.
What?
The law should deal with them
first, and then bam.
Yep.
Jimmy, Paddy Dangerfield is as good as there is when it comes to this caper of footy, but Jordan Clark letting him down here.
Yeah, he's got almost a knack now, Jordan Clark, of getting him in the goal square, but he actually put up the hand when we flip around the other angle. He put up the hand and said, no, slow down, Paddy. But I think Paddy was taking that, pop it over the top, but he was stuck here in the quicksand or the treadmill there. And one of the better points, Paddy's handball.
There was a Matthew Ritson rule they brought in. If you're within, I think, 30 metres, he had to go back and kick it.
Right.
Just dumb from Paddy there. I know it was funny, but go back and take the shot.
Doesn't make sense,
No.
does it? We want to finish the show today with the best moment from the weekend. 5-year-old Kyron Maguire, who was terminally ill with brain cancer, surrounded by his Magpie heroes in some terrific scenes.
Hey, Kyron, do you want to jump up on mine and Nadz's shoulders? Ready? 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 Oh. Ready? Yeah. Way to the crowd. Way to the crowd. Put both hands up. Both hands up. Way to the crowd. Yeah. Good on, boys. Good boy. Lean us off, mate. Lean us off. Lean us off.
Yeah, well, I hope everyone got a big dose of perspective on Friday night. That it's only a game, but it is a wonderful game, what it can do, Lloydie, for, I guess, the greater community and the likes of Kyron Maguire. And you can only say well done to Collingwood.
Yeah. We're all parents here,
Yeah.
and it just breaks your heart. And, it's just memories the family will never have.
It's difficult to watch and yet beautiful to watch at the same time. Thanks for joining us on Access All Areas. Have a good week. We'll see you next Monday. Goodbye.